Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man wala amma ba'du. I apologize for the first few minutes of silence. Inshallah, I'll cut that off. I had my microphone muted. Anyway, the link is in the description or in the chat. The link is in the chat for those who want to join and partake with us. Yesterday, we spoke about the obligation of fasting and the purpose of fasting, who fasting is obligatory upon, the obligation of having the intention and when the intention should be had, and that suhur is obligatory. And we spoke about how do we know of the entrance of Ramadan is Sha'ban 29 or 30 days. And we spoke about, and all of these things briefly and quickly, as we said, without the evidence. We spoke about fasting being the day that the people fast, and breaking fast is the day that the people break fast. And whoever saw the moon by himself, he alone saw it, then he fasts with the people unless he's by himself. And that the seeing of the new moon is done with the eye and not by calculations. And we spoke about what happens to a person who lives in a land where the day is extremely long, such as 21 hours, and iftar, breaking fast, making maghrib, eating, making isha, making tarawih. All of that takes place in just 3 hours, while fasting is 21 hours. What does that person do? And we spoke about what does a person do who lives in a country where the sun does not set nor does it rise for the period of 6 months, such as those far northern and possibly far south countries. Today, as we said, the link is in the chat for those who want to join, having a microphone and headset so that there will be no feedback. We're going to read Fasl al-Rabi' until someone wants to join us. The fourth section here, al-iftaru yakunu inda ghurub ash-shamsi. Al-iftar, the breaking of the fast. Right? Al-iftar yakunu, it is at the time of ghurub shams, ghurubi shams, the setting of the sun. Wa in lam yasma al-adhan, and even if the person does not hear the adhan, lam yasma', this kasr on the ayn here, yasma'il adhan, is kasr here is for reading purposes. Other than that, yasma' would have a sukoon on the ayn because of the lam, which makes it majzoom. Wa in lam yasma' al-adhan, even if the person or he does not hear the adhan, he's still going to break the fast when the sun sets. The sheikh is telling us that regardless if you hear the adhan or not, as sometimes some masajid, they delay the adhan in order to be safe and sure. Right? And this is not from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or perhaps the muadhin is up there eating a date and drinking some water, breaking the fast before he calls the adhan, and he takes a few seconds or half a minute, and the people are waiting for to hear the adhan, although they know the time has entered. Then they wait. Here the Sheikh says, al-iftar yakunu inda ghurub shams. The breaking of the fast is done at the time of the setting of the sun, meaning not at the time of hearing the adhan, but at the time of the setting of the sun. وَإِن لَمْ يَسْمَعِ الْأَذَانِ, even if he does not hear the adhan. فَلَا بُدَّ, so there is no doubt, مِن تَعْجِيلِ الْفِطْر, there is no doubt, or certainly, surely, there should be the ta'jil from Ain, Jim, Lam, the ta'jil, the rushing, or the rushing, the going quickly to al-fitr, the breaking of the fast. This should be done at its earliest time. وَيُفْطِرُ عَلَى رُطُوبَاتٍ, وَيُفْطِرُ, and basically he breaks fast, عَلَى رُطُوبَاتٍ, the person, he should break fast with rutubat, or the plural, or the singular, rutub. Rutub is the singular. And this means the fresh dates. We spoke about this previously. The dates we get in America, usually the majdul dates, then those are more like, if we consider the grape to be an example for us, then that would be like a raisin, the date, the majdul date. Likewise, the sticky dates that come in the packs, those are like the raisin with some date paste around them, right? The more date paste, smashed up dates that are around them, and that's what causes them to be sticky. It's called dubs. It's dubs around the dates. It's other dates that have been maybe weren't very weren't whole when they were picked or whatever. They weren't good enough to be there, but they smash them and make them into another paste for the sweetness. Then this is called tamar. Tamar, a date. A rutub would be more like a fresh date. A fresh grape, a grape that still has, it's not shriveled up and it still has the juice in it. It's somewhat similar of an example. So the rutub is before it becomes the actual date that we mostly see in the West. And for those who have lived in the Middle East or spent some time there, then they will know what a rutub is. You can look it up. The difference, you can look it up if you want to see some of these things. Sometimes when you're wanting to know the meaning of a word, you can look it up in Google. And what you can do is type image. When you search, type the word in there and then click on image instead of all. At the top, it'll say all, image, maps, so on. You can type this word rutub and then click on images. And then a bunch of images of rutub will come up. And then you can type in tamar and you can see the difference. So the Sheikh says, وَيُفْطِرُ عَلَى رُطُبَاتٍ. So he breaks fast upon rutub dates, this fresher date or earlier stage, as if the other dates aren't fresh, right? فَإِن لَمْ يُوجِد, and if they are not available, فَعَلَى تَمْرَاتٍ, then upon tamarat, upon tamar, which are the dates, the normal dates that we buy in the grocery store in the West. فَإِن لَمْ يُوجِد, And if they're not available, فَيَحْصُوا حَصَوَاتٍ مِّن مَاءٍ. So first he should drink or eat rutab, and if the rutab are not available, he eats tamar, and if the tamar is not available, then yahsu from ha sin wow, meaning to sip, to sip, not slip, to sip. Hasawat, to take some sips, min ma, right? Then he should take some sips from water. This is the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is how he used to break his fast. With rutab, if the rutab is not there, then with tamar, and if the tamar is not available, then with some drinks or sips of water. Yahsu is to sip. Hasawat, some sips, right? Some drinks, min ma, of water. It's a small quantity. It's not a lot. Not to just gulp down, right? Not to just gulp down a big gulp or something, right? And this shows the order of how we should break our fast, and the fact that we should break it with dates or water. And then you can enter in the banana or the watermelon or the samosa along with the bread and so on. Right? وَإِذَا سَمِيَ أَحَدُكُمْ النِّدَاء وَإِذَا, and when, and here we're talking about a different point, a different thing here. We're talking about suhur. وَإِذَا سَمِيَ أَحَدُكُمْ, and if one of you hears النِّدَاء, the call, النِّدَاء from Noon, Dal, Alif Maksura, النِّدَاء, or al-adhan, because the adhan is a nida and the nida is the adhan. So if he hears the call, وَفِي يَدِهِ الْإِنَاء, and in his hand, وَفِي يَدِهِ, and in his hand is al-ina, a vessel, meaning a cup. فَلَا يَدَعْهُ, then he should not place it down. يَضَعْهُ, يَضَعْ from waw, dad, ain, to place something down. فَلَا يَدَعْهُ, so then he does not place it down. حَتَّى, until يَقْضِيَ حَاجَتَهُ, until he يَقْضِيَ, he basically takes or fulfills his haja, his need. So the first part we spoke about the breaking of the fast. Here we're talking about the suhur, for beginning the fast. And for those of you not familiar, sahur with a fatha is the food for breaking fast. Suhur with a dhamma on the scene is the meal. The sahur is the food that you take, not for breaking fast, but for to start the fast. The sahur with a fatha is the food that you eat for that pre-fast meal. And suhur with a dhamma on the fatha, with a dhamma on the fatha, with a dhamma on the scene, almost done. With a dhamma on the scene is the name of that pre-fasting meal. So, for instance, you could ask someone what was there, and it's not necessarily you can say it in Arabic, but what is their sahur for suhur? What did they eat for breakfast, right? Or this pre-fasting meal. والإمساك, the Sheikh he says, والإمساك عن الطعام, and withholding or abstaining from food, قبل الأذان, before the adhan, bid'atun, is an innovation. Is an innovation. So not taking the or withholding from food before the adhan time is an innovation. Meaning to say I'm not going to eat for 15 minutes before the adhan. And this suhur should be done slightly before Fajr. Some people, they take it an hour before Fajr. Fajr comes in at 5 a.m. At 4:15 in the morning, they're eating suhoor. I'm not saying this is not permissible, but this is not suhoor. Suhoor is the meal done slightly before the entrance of Fajr. Slightly before the entrance of al-Fajr. Some people say, but I want to clean my mouth. I want to make sure I don't have anything in it, this and that. Fine. Do it right before the time of Fajr, not a half hour before. Say I'm not going to eat anything for 15 minutes before the adhan just to make sure in case it comes in earlier than what's on the timesheet. All of this is not from Islam, and the Sheikh says it's bid'ah. So that doesn't mean every day you should be caught with an ina fi yadik. Every day you should be caught with a vessel in your hand. But it should be close to that time that if it were to happen, it would be normal instead of abstaining from food for a long period of time before the adhan. Then the Sheikh, he says, Faslun al-Khamis, the fifth section. Give me a second here so I can try to slide this over. He says, Men wajaba alayhi sawm naharan. Whoever fasting becomes obligatory upon him naharan, during the day. How would fasting become obligatory upon someone during the day? He goes to explain. Kal majnoon yufiq. Kal majnoon yufiq. Like a crazy person who basically gains his sanity. Who gains his sanity. A crazy person from Jeen Noon, Majnoon, right? The crazy person who yufiq, coming from fa, waw, qaf, meaning to wake up, to recover, right? To gain consciousness, right? So a crazy person, someone who lost their sanity, they gain their sanity back because the pen is lifted from the Majnoon. He does not have to fast. He's not bound by obligations. But if in the middle of the day, naharan, during the day, he awakens from his insanity, was sabi, and like the child, a sabi, and it has a kasr here on the ya because of the ka in kal majnoon. Kasabi, if you were to say kasabi, or like the child, yahtalimu. Yahtalimu Form 8 of Ha Lam Mim, meaning to gain adulthood. If he were in the middle of the day to gain adulthood, he reaches the point of puberty, right? Well, kafir, and again the kasr on the ra, wa kal kafiri yuslimu, and like the kafir who accepts Islam in the middle of the day, the non-Muslim in the middle of the day, right? Wa kaman balaghahu bi anna hilala ramadana ru'iya al-bariha. And like the one, kaman, and like the one, balaghahu, it reached him, bi anna, that, hilala ramadana, the hilal of Ramadan, the new crescent of Ramadan, ru'ya, it was seen, al-bariha, was seen yesterday, was seen last night. Al-bariha is last night. You talk about something that happened just last night in the morning time, right? You ask someone what happened, what did they do yesterday? Al-bariha, last night. Not yesterday, ams, but al-bariha, what happened just last night? This is al-bariha. So, if a person is majnoon and he gains his sanity, or if a child reaches puberty, or a kafir accepts Islam, or a person who just didn't know that the hilal of Ramadan was sighted yesterday, and then that news reaches him that last night the moon was sighted. وَجَبَ عَلَيْهِ الصَّوْمُ نَهَارًا. Then it becomes obligatory upon him to fast from the daytime. فَهَؤُلَاءِ, then these people, هَؤُلَاءِ, these, يُجْزِئُهُمْ النِّيَّةِ, يُجْزِئُهُمْ النِّيَّةِ, then yujzi'uhum from Jim, Zay, Hamza, or Alif Maksura, like Jazakallahu khaira. Yujzi'uhum form 4 here means then it is sufficient from them, that it is accepted from them. An-niyatu min an-nahar hin al-wujub. The niyya, the intention, min an-nahar, in the daytime basically. Hina, at the time of al-wujub, at the time of obligation. So as soon as the fasting person becomes conscious and is informed that it's Ramadan, or the child becomes an adult by reaching puberty, and he is informed that it's Ramadan, or the kafir becomes a Muslim, he accepts Islam, and he's informed that this is Ramadan. Just like a person who doesn't have any of these original, say, defects or conditions which doesn't make fasting obligatory upon them. If this person was told, he's a normal person, but just didn't know it was fasting. If he was told that, hey, the moon was seen last night and it's 10 a.m. in the morning, right? Yujzi'uhum an-niyatu min an-nahar hina wujub. At that point that he is told and informed that it's Ramadan, then he must fast. Right? Hina, at the time of obligation, meaning it's obligatory, and it became obligatory upon the crazy person when he gained his sanity. It became obligatory upon the child when he reached puberty. It became obligatory upon the disbeliever when he accepted Islam. And it became obligatory upon the one who just didn't know it was Ramadan. As soon as he was told, it became obligatory, and he needs to have the niyyah. Yujzi'uhum an-niyyah. Which means, does he have to make it up or not? Does he have to make it up or not? And here the Sheikh says, "Walau ba'da an akalu aw sharibu." Walau, and even if ba'da, and even if it was after he ate and he drank. Even if it was after he ate and he drank. So the question comes to mind, does he have to make it up? The Sheikh, in his discussion here in the Silsila as-Sahiha, he goes to say that it is not necessarily to make up that day. So if the crazy person or the child or the disbeliever had eaten in the morning and then at noontime or early afternoon they accepted Islam or woke up or reached puberty, or this person who just didn't know yesterday was Ramadan because of whatever reason, right? He just didn't know. Then even if he ate or drank breakfast or lunch, then his intention from the time of finding out will be sufficient for him, and he does not have to make it up. That's the conclusion of the Sheikh. The Sheikh says you don't have to make it up. And he quotes Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala in the Silsila Sahiha, where Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said, وَيَصِحُّ صَوْمُ الْفَرْضِ بِنِيَّةِ النَّهَارِ, and it is the obligatory fast is correct with an intention from the daytime, إِذَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ وُجُوبَهُ بِاللَّيْلِ, if he did not know that it was obligatory upon him the next day during the nighttime, meaning before Fajr. كما إذا قامت البينة بالرؤيا في أثناء النهار, just like if he was confirmed or was established for him that the moon was seen last night, but he was informed in the middle of the day. فإنه يتم بقية يومه, then he continues or completes the rest of his day, meaning from whatever point of the day he finds out. ولا يلزمه قضاء وإن كان أكل, then it does not require him to make up for that day, even if he had eaten, because he did not know it was an obligation. An important point, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah, he says, من كان أكل فليمسك عن الطعام, whoever had eaten, then let him abstain from eating. ومن لم يأكل فليصم بقية يومه, and whoever had not eaten, then let him fast the rest of his day. So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was of the opinion that if a person, it reached him in the middle of the day that Ramadan or the moon was seen last night, or the crazy person or the child or the kafir, so on, then if he had not eaten already in the daytime, then he should fast the rest of the day, and it will be considered valid for him. But if he had already eaten, then he should just abstain from food and yaqdi hadha yawm, and he should make up that day. And of course, there's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars that needs to be figured out. But Sheikh al-Albani's position here is he does not have to make up that day. Yujzi'uhum an-niyya min an-nahar. It is sufficient for them. It counts for them the intention from the daytime. Heen al-wujub, as long as they make it at the time of obligation. And we'll just continue with this one last little paragraph. It's so much more enjoyable when the students attend and they read, and it's not just me. وَيُمَرَّنُّ الصِّبْيَانُ عَلَى الصِّيَامِ. Here, this root of meme, ra, right? Meaning to um trying to think of a good translation for it. Or mim ra noon asif. To train. Well, yumarrannu is to train, to condition, to get someone accustomed to something. Well, yumarrannu as-sibyanu. So the child is trained ala siyam for fasting, upon fasting. The child should be trained. We find many times in the West when the people have left off the important matters of the religion, have become involved in politics and so many other things, that they allow their children to be 9, 10, 11 years old, still fasting just half the day. They're just kids, sometimes even once they've actually reached puberty. But they're just kids, they're young. While the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, during their time, the child used to be given a ball to occupy him from his hunger. And so when we read a hadith like this, that the child was given a ball, that the Salaf used to make their children fast, and that they would train them and get them used to and accustomed to fasting, and they would give them a ball to satisfy their hunger, then you have to ask, okay, what age is it that a ball would occupy someone from their hunger? Can you give a 10-year-old a ball and it's going to make him forget that he's hungry? Or is it younger than that? And these are the things you have to kind of think and figure out. And of course, in my opinion, it's much younger than 10 years old. The 10-year-old is going to play with the ball maybe for a few minutes or say, man, that ball ain't stopping me from my hunger. He's older. And that's because he's not trained upon it. So a child should be trained and accustomed to fasting. وَالصَّائِمُ الْمُتَطَوِّعُ. الصائم, the fasting person, al-mutatawwi'u, mutatawwa' from ta, waw, ain, here means voluntary. So the voluntary faster, or the fasting person doing the voluntary fasting, amiru nafsihi, is the leader. He's the leader. He's the amir of himself. In sha'a atamma. If he's fasting a voluntary fast, if he wants to, in sha'a, if he wants to, atamma, he completes. Wa in sha'a, and if he wants to, aftara, then he can break his fast. So if you're fasting a voluntary fast and you are presented with some food or drink, or invited to a dinner or something like this, or a lunch, and you're fasting, then you're the amir of yourself. You can, if you want, complete your fast, and if you want, you can break your fast. It is a voluntary fast. وَمَنْ زَارَ قَوْمًا, and whoever visited a people, وَهُوَ صَائِمٌ, and he's fasting, يَدْعُو لَهُمْ بِخَيْرٍ, then he makes dua for them for good. So he asks Allah to give them good in place of eating their food, and because it's not just that when you're invited somewhere that it's like about, yeah, I get to eat for free or something like this. You're actually honoring that host. You're actually honoring that host. That host feels good when you eat, right? So he ordered you and he brought you some food, and he feels sad that you're not eating his food that he presented for you. Not that it's going to go to waste or he did all this for naught. No, but he wanted to give you food, and he's pleased when he provides for you. And those of us who are parents and we give our children something in there and they eat and we see them eat and we know they worked and then they didn't have anything and we give them something and we know the enjoyment we feel just watching them eat. So they invited you to something and you were fasting and they didn't get to see you eat. So that might sadden them or take away from some of the reward. So make dua for them for good. Or if you like, if it's a voluntary fast, right, you can tuftir, you can break your fast. We're going to close here, inshallah ta'ala, but we're going to have a homework. We're going to have a homework for those who listen to the audio. And that is, what is the dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to make for the people who invited him and he was fasting? Put that in the comments below, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Tomorrow we'll be back, inshallah ta'ala, and we will speak about some of the sunnah fasts that are to be made bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, or meat to be fasted. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.